know that most of what you've seen, read, or heard about Billy the Kid is untrue? My name is Gail Cooper. I'm a medical doctor and forensic psychiatrist. My specialty is murder case consultation for the defense. For 20 years, I've used my expertise to uncover the real Billy the Kid. Researching over 40,000 pages of archival documents and books, I've written the revisionist history. It's shocking, it's liberating, and I've written books demolishing the hoaxes, hijacking the history. My talks will share with you what I've found. Cover-ups, misinformation, and fakery, to use Old West lingo, will bite the dust. This talk presents Billy the Kid imposter, Oliver Brushy Bill Roberts' other fake personas in his book, Alias Billy the Kid. The information is from my book, Cracking the Billy the Kid Imposter Hoax of Brushy Bill Roberts. For his life, after the July 14, 1881 Fort Sumner death scene, imposter Brushy Bill Roberts needed 69 more years of autobiography to fill Alias Billy the Kid's section, The Brushy Bill Story, for his fabricated 90 years as Billy the Kid. So recycled were his past delusional personas and tall tales from notebooks he wrote before meeting his hoax promoters, mastermind WilliamVMorrison and book writer C.L. Sonneshin. To use Brushy's writings, Sonneshin abandoned the illiteracy claimed earlier in the book to pretend Brushy couldn't read up for his Billy the Kid tales and declared he used Brushy's, quote, copious notes. Also, Brushy's imaginary jobs, like a Pinkerton detective, needed literacy. So, Sonneshin kept a straight face and crossed fingers that readers wouldn't recognize Brushy's ridiculous parade of jobs in the section titled From Then Till Now. To be noted is that Brushy likely didn't intend for his earlier personas to form a single tale. As discussed in Talk 48 linked below, his M.O. was as a street performer, buttonholing people in towns where he lived and spouting brief, name-dropping confabulations of his Old West adventures from 20 years before his birth. So, the blame for ridiculousness may rest with Sonneshin, who strung the tales together as a single narrative, though the dates and places are contradictory. And not to be missed is the pathetic quality of Brushy's fantasy adventures as a skilled, brave, and famous person. During their timeline, he actually led a claustrophobic life as a mentally ill farm laborer in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas, dependent on care by family and 4 wives, with supplementation of his meager income by adding 10 years to his age to fraudulently collect Social Security benefits. To be noted also is Sonneshin's and Morrison's fakery by omitting Brushy's craziest tales. Hidden is Brushy as the friend of Jesse James, as Morrison used him in 1950 to back J. Frank Dalton, a Jesse James imposter Morrison promoted before faking Brushy as Billy the Kid. And hidden is Brushy's 1915 delusion that he was Frank James, Jesse James's brother, as described in historian Donald Klein's 1988 unpublished manuscript, Brushy Bill Roberts, I Wasn't Billy the Kid. Proved is that Morrison and Sonneshin knew that Brushy was a faker and worked to hide it. For his alias Billy the Kid autobiography, Brushy leaves Fort Sumner after the death scene and goes first to El Paso, Texas, then Mexico. In 1882, he goes to Grand Saline, Texas, where he, quote, dressed like an Indian and drove a salt wagon, then went back to Mexico in 1883, returning that year to Texas as the Texas Kid to work at a cattle company. He has himself arrested as Billy the Kid on a cattle drive in Kansas City, but freed by friends. Then, for, quote, 3 or 4 years, he tames horses, goes to the Black Hills of South Dakota to guard stage lines, and is named Brushy Bill for riding in Brushy Hills. He then rides for Buffalo Bill Cody at his Nebraska ranch. In 1888, he becomes a Pinkerton detective, joins the Anti-Horse Thief Association to pursue Texas horse thieves, and works 4 years for Judge Parker in Arkansas. In 1889, he wins $10,000 in a cowboy roundup in Cheyenne, riding a bucking horse named Cyclone, then moves to Oklahoma City. In 1890, he becomes a boxer in Cincinnati, Ohio, then a bronco rider in Mexico, before going to Fort Worth and Sulphur Springs, Texas. In 1892, he becomes a deputy U.S. Marshal pursuing train robbers and encounters the Dalton gang who know he's Billy the Kid. In 1893, he goes to Argentina to break horses. In 1894, he catches ponies in the Shetland Islands, returns to Oklahoma Indian Territory and shoots dead a Creek Indian, and begins a 3-year stint as a marshal. From 1894 to 1897, he also rides in Wild Bill's and Pawnee Bill's Wild West shows. Note that in his Dallas Morning News interview of September 18, 1950, titled Sam Bass Pistol, Texan New Bad Men Saw Horse Thieves Hang, Brushy said he joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West show in 1885 for a year, then went with Pawnee Bill's show before forming his own show touring the Southwest for 25 years. From 1895 to 1897, Brushy also has himself ranching in Old Mexico as the Hugo Kid. In 1898, he's a Roosevelt Rough Rider and goes to Cuba, where a lieutenant cook recognizes him as the Texas Kid and makes him a scout in charge of the horses, but he is accused of shooting 4 officers and is discharged. To be noted is that Brushy's relative, Royale Hawes, in his 2015 book, Brushy Bill, Proof That His Claim to be Billy the Kid was a Hoax, debunks Brushy's job claims, noting, for example, that the Rough Riders didn't use horses and there was no historical lieutenant cook or shooting of officers. In 1899, Brushy goes back to Old Mexico, but President Diaz seizes his ranch in a 12-day shootout. From 1902 to 1904, he makes his own Wild West show. Here, Sonneshin fixed up Brushy's notes since, as Brushy said in his 1950 Dallas Morning News interview, he had his Wild West show for 25 years. In 1904, Brushy, as a horse trader, moves to Canton, Texas, then back to Indian Territory. In 1907, he returns to Mexico and makes another ranch. In 1910, he joins the Mexican Revolution and rides with Pancho Villa. Note that this may be a Morrison prompt since he was then researching a possible book on Pancho Villa. In 1914, Brushy flees Mexico to Brownsville, Texas. But in his muddled dates, in 1912, he also marries a Molly Brown in Texas, makes ranches in Oklahoma and Arkansas, and works in oil fields. Brushy and Molly move at an unstated date to Gladewater, Texas, at its oil strike, where Brushy works as a plainclothesman against bank robbers. Widowed in 1919, in 1925 he marries a so-called Lucinda, it was Letitia Ballard, who dies in 1944. That year, it was actually 1945, he marries a Melinda, misspelled, Allison. Sonneshin ended the autobiography with a possibly forged Brushy quote linking the cavalcade of personas to his Governor Mabry pardon hearing. Brushy states, "I've been a good, useful citizen, and I think I deserve a break." In 54 years, that quote would resurface in the mouth of a Brushy backing attorney for the massive Billy the Kid case hoax as proof that Brushy deserved a posthumous gubernatorial pardon as Billy the Kid for having lived a long and law-abiding life. In actuality, Brushy's convoluted, phony life after the Billy the Kid shooting tests reader gullibility, pointing to Sonneshin's and Morrison's scorn of the audience they intended to dupe. The talk to follow exposes Alias Billy the Kid's section of photographs pretending to add proof that Brushy Bill Roberts was Billy the Kid.